So, your voice and your truth is the most important tool and the most important weapon that you are ever going to hold in your life. So, it's really important that you cultivate your voice in a way that is able to be heard in a way that carries authority, that carries conviction, and that delivers in a way that is healthy and graceful and loving and compassionate. Now, unfortunately, many of us have not been taught how to effectively communicate. We have learned how to communicate indirectly through our caregivers who weren't also taught how to communicate. So it's not our fault and it's not their fault. It's simply a case of it is what it is. So, what we get to do is we get to learn how to communicate through mentors and books and understanding human psychology and learning how to share our truth and our opinion in a way that is quote unquote non-violent and in a way that is healthy, which can be a journey for a lot of us. It was certainly a huge part of my journey anyway, on my leadership journey and on my coaching journey. And a really big part of it is holding accountability and taking full ownership and responsibility of where we are at. And when we learn how to effectively communicate and when we become anchored in our truth about our experience, about our emotions, the way in which we're feeling, the things in which we're seeing, the things in which we're experiencing, the visions that we have, the things in which we desire to create, when we become truly anchored and convicted and aware and accepting, most importantly, as well as self validating in some aspects, we're able to really express ourselves in a way that creates clarity and safety with the people that are receiving what we are sharing. And ultimately, that leads to a stronger bond. So, whether that be a stronger bond in relationships, to build on an intimate level in friendships, spouses, relationships, in families, whatever that may be, or whether that be if you are building your business and looking to sell your work and looking to market and advertise what it is you have on offer. The more conviction that we have and the more awareness that we have about ourselves and about everything that's happening in our experience, the more we are able to deliver that with clarity and with safety, which ultimately makes people feel better in our presence. So, sharing our truth is really, really important. And a lot of the times, people are performing, and it's very, very obvious when people are performing, whether that be on social media and people creating videos like this video that I'm creating now, or whether that be in relationships. You can tell through the energy, you can tell through the body language, you can tell through the way in which they're delivering what they're saying and the frequency that their voice is carrying, as to whether they are anchored in their truth and sharing from that place, or whether they're actually performing. And the more we become anchored in ourselves and in our truth and in our energy and in our conviction, the more we can see from a distance who's performing and who's actually anchored in their truth. It's it's a very real thing. The more, I mean, the real see the real, right? And the fake can't tell the real between the fake, and the fake normally don't like the real. So when it comes to looking at your offers and what it is that you're desiring to share with your collective, when it comes to building your business and auditing your offers, a really important question to ask yourself is, where am I performing? Where am I trying to prove myself? Versus where am I simply sharing my truth? Because ultimately, you want to come from a place of sharing your truth, of telling the truth, rather than over exaggerating, or the need to over explain, or the need to perform. You know, no one, I mean, the only time we ever like to watch performances is when we go to uh, a show on the West End, or when we're actually watching a movie or going to see an artist, you know. However, when it comes to building relationships, especially in business, especially when we're going to be working closely together, we build those relationships based on truth. So, coming from that place as a service provider is very, very important. So, conviction really supports when it comes to this. Now, when it comes to your pricing and your policies, you want to align these to your truth and what works for you in respects to your capacity and the timeline that you're on and the boundaries that you have and the way in which you desire to move when it comes to refunds, right? Some things are non-refundable, some things you're happy to refund. So it's important that you take the time to really sit down and think about, okay, well, what is my capacity? What are the timelines that I desire to work upon? What are my boundaries when it comes to this work? And where do I look at my work in respects to pricing and in respects to refunds? And a huge part of this process is feeling into your body. It doesn't matter what anyone else says, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It matters the way in which you feel. Because if you're moving through life and through your business carrying resentment, that's ultimately going to cause disharmony and discordance in whatever area that you're feeling resentment in. So it's really important that you create your life around feeling good. This is very important. And sometimes things might shift. You might move through your business, and what felt good a year ago doesn't feel good at all now, because you're shifting and you're growing and you're evolving and you're ascending, which is amazing. Congratulations. Things are going to shift and change. And when they do, what you get to do is shift it and change it in a way that feels good for you, all whilst honoring previous clients in a way that feels good for you as well. We don't want to be overextending, and we don't want to be devaluing ourselves, because when we do that, ultimately other people reflect back the way in which we have been undervaluing and under appreciating ourselves. So yeah, I've been through this myself with my Anagic business. When I teach people, well, I teach people how to build their businesses, yeah. So a couple of years ago, at the end of 2024, got to a point where I was giving my whole Anagic organization the whole of my life's work for free, because they were in my organization. And the way that I looked at it at the time is, okay, well, if I was given all of this for free, I would take it and I would run with it and I would go with it. However, it was a great lesson for the fact that not everyone's like me. So I was giving all of my work away for free, and they weren't leading themselves. And ultimately, I was putting a lot of energy into supporting them build their business where they weren't leading themselves and building their business. And it was negatively affecting me, because I wasn't getting remunerated for the time and the energy and the effort and everything that I was putting into them, because I was putting so much into them that I wasn't focusing on my business, right? So then I looked at this feeling inside of me of feeling undervalued and unappreciated and disrespected. And I looked at that mirror and I realized that it, they were simply reflecting the way that I was treating myself and my work, where I was giving all of my work away for free in that sense. They just weren't valuing it. and they weren't moving to build their business because of whatever reasons for them. And because I wasn't valuing myself, I was putting more energy into other people more than I was putting into myself. Life was reflecting that back in various different ways. So I ultimately came to the decision through this mirror of life, a loving decision with these women that I was working with at the time, to reclaim the power and the trust and start to charge for my work. And ultimately that allowed for people, sisters, to come into my life that value what it is that I have to offer, and they don't ask me to overextend myself, and they appreciate the 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 time, the energy, the value and the wisdom that I have. And when it comes to a sense of working, they pay for it and they remunerate me for that. And this is the level that we get to be at if we desire to be supported by someone who is a few chapters ahead. We really must get out of this mindset, this entitlement of I deserve things for free. Who, what? No, you deserve to invest in yourself, and the other person deserves to be remunerated for the time, the energy, and the attention that they're not only giving to you, but for the craft that they've built within themselves, right? And it's all about respect. It's about respecting ourselves first and foremost to invest in ourselves. And it's also about respecting the other person's time and energy, because first and foremost, our time is the only commodity that we're not going to get back. And our energy is a very important commodity, especially if we are highly sensitive beings and we haven't got consistent access to sacral life force, right? So it's really creating that respect for ourselves first and foremost, and then also for other people, to give our money to ourselves and to others for the things in which we're learning, and ultimately the ways in which we're growing for that. Teachers deserve to be paid, guides deserve to be paid, right? So yeah, it's been a really beautiful journey, and at the time it was really heartbreaking because I, you think others will be like you, and they're not always like you, and it's never personal either. It's all a frequency, spiritual thing, and it's all lessons, and it's great, and we get to feel all the feelings. There's no bypassing when it comes to it, and I certainly felt all the feelings, and I also stayed true with my boundaries, and with loving and valuing myself enough to stay strong in my offerings, and the way I decided and desired to move forward in my business. And now we are where we are. So, yeah, if you desire to learn from me, I have a free portal that you can dive into that explains the business model that I support people in building around their personal brand. And in that free portal is also a plethora of content that will support you with reclaiming your power and opening your receiving channels for money, and really landing into a conviction as to why sales and marketing is the best way that you can go, and moving through any kind of icky stickiness that you might have. And yeah, there's so much in there that's going to support you. So the links are below, and if you desire to join me on the mission in the wealth frequency shift, then the link is also below in the description. I'm sending you so much love, and you've got this. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment or subscribe. Let me know what you got from this video, and I'll see you on the next video. Mwah.